Have you ever felt it? The sickening and disorienting sensation of having done everything right, only to watch it all go horribly wrong. You were honest, and you were betrayed. You were fair, and you were exploited. You were compassionate, and your compassion was mistaken for weakness. You have played by the rules of the good person, the moral, ethical, and decent human being, only to find yourself outmaneuvered, undermined, and ultimately defeated by those who operate by a different, darker, and seemingly more effective set of rules. You are left in a state of profound and bitter confusion. You look at the world, at the landscape of power in your own life, in your career, in your relationships, in the grand theater of politics, and you see a chilling and undeniable pattern. The people who rise, the people who win, the people who seem to hold all the cards are so often not the good, but the ruthless. They are the charming manipulators, the shameless self-promoters, the ones who are willing to do whatever it takes to get what they want. And you, the good person, are left on the sidelines, clutching your useless virtues, feeling a toxic mixture of self-righteousness and profound, humiliating impotence. You are left with a question that feels like a betrayal of everything you have ever been taught to believe. What if being good is a losing strategy? This is one of the most dangerous and uncomfortable questions a human being can ask. And it is a question that our modern culture, with its optimistic and deeply sentimental morality, is desperate to avoid. We are fed a constant diet of comforting lies, that good always triumphs in the end, that cheaters never prosper, that the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice. But what if this is all a fairy tale, a story we tell our children and ourselves to mask a far more brutal and terrifying reality? There was one thinker in the history of the West who had the immense and terrible courage to look this reality squarely in the face, to dissect it with the cold, unflinching precision of a surgeon, and to write down what he found without any moralistic sugarcoating. His name was Niccolo Machiavelli, and for 500 years his name has been synonymous with evil, with tyranny, with the dark arts of cynical manipulation. We have turned him into a monster because we cannot bear the terrible and liberating truth of his central, hidden lesson. And that lesson is this: in the real world, the world of power, the world as it is rather than as we wish it to be, the good person, the person who clings to a conventional, idealistic morality, will not just finish last. They will be utterly and completely destroyed. The cost of their goodness is not just failure, it is ruin, the great deception, the two worlds, and the fatal naivete of the good man. To understand Machiavelli's terrifying lesson, you must first grasp his fundamental and world-shattering distinction between two entirely different realms of existence, each with its own set of immutable laws. There is the world of private morality, the world of the church, of the family, of personal relationships between equals. In this world, the Christian virtues of humility, of compassion, of honesty, of turning the other cheek may be beautiful and even effective. This is the world as we wish it were. But there is another world, a world that operates by a completely different and far more brutal set of laws. This is the world of power. It is the world of politics, of business, of war, of any arena where human beings are competing for scarce resources, for status, for survival. This is the world as it is. It is not a moral drama. It is a jungle. It is a realm governed not by what is right, but by what is effective. It is a realm of necessity, of force, of deception. The great and tragic error of the good person is that they do not recognize this distinction. They are a naive universalist. They believe that the rules of private morality apply everywhere, at all times. They walk into the brutal, chaotic, and amoral arena of power armed with nothing but the gentle virtues of the monastery. They are, in Machiavelli's devastatingly clear-eyed view, a sheep who has willingly wandered into a pack of wolves, expecting them to play by the rules of the pasture. The outcome is not just predictable, it is inevitable. They will be devoured. Machiavelli saw with a clarity that still shocks us today that the world of power is not a moral undertaking. The lion and the fox, strength and cunning, are the ruling deities of this realm. The person who wishes to not just survive, but to thrive in this world cannot afford the luxury of a pure and unsullied conscience. They must, he argued, learn how to be not good. This is the phrase that has damned Machiavelli for centuries, but it is the most misunderstood phrase in the history of philosophy. He was not advising a life of wanton cruelty and gratuitous evil. He was a realist, a political scientist observing the laws of his field. He was saying that the leader, the prince, the person who has taken on the responsibility for the well-being of a state or a company or even a family, must be willing to do the bad things that are sometimes necessary to achieve a good end. They must be willing to lie to an enemy to protect their people. They must be willing to make a ruthless but necessary decision to save their enterprise from collapse. They must be willing to be cruel in one moment to prevent a far greater cruelty in the next. The private citizen can afford to keep their own hands clean and to save their own soul. The leader, the person of power, has a different and far more terrible responsibility. They are responsible for the well-being of others, and this may require them to risk the damnation of their own soul. The good person, in their moral purity, cannot make this calculation. They are trapped in a rigid black and white world of absolute moral principles. They would rather see their company fail than make a single, ethically compromised decision. They would rather allow a greater evil to triumph than to use a lesser evil to defeat it. Their goodness is a form of self-indulgence. It is a form of moral vanity. They are more concerned with the purity of their own conscience than with the real-world consequences of their actions. And this, for Machiavelli, is the ultimate and most unforgivable form of irresponsibility. The shocking cost of this kind of goodness is not just personal failure, it is the ruin of everything and everyone you are responsible for protecting. The psychology of the predator. Why the wolves will always win the game. Machiavelli's lesson is not just a political one, it is a profound and deeply uncomfortable psychological one. He had a chillingly clear and unsentimental understanding of human nature. He saw that while many people may be good in the sense that they are passive, fearful, and desirous of peace, there will always be a small and significant minority who are not. There will always be the wolves. The wolf is the person who is driven by an insatiable hunger for power, for glory, for domination. They do not see the world through a moral lens. They see it as a game, an arena for the expression of their own will. They are not bound by the rules of conventional morality, by feelings of guilt, or by a concern for the well-being of others. They see these things as weaknesses, as tactical disadvantages to be exploited in their opponents. The good person, the sheep, is psychologically incapable of understanding this mindset. They are a prisoner of their own virtuous projections. They assume that everyone, deep down, is like them, that everyone wants peace, fairness, and cooperation. They cannot comprehend the existence of a mind that is wired for pure, predatory self-interest. They cannot fathom a person who feels no remorse, who sees deception as a tool, and who views the world as a zero-sum game. And this failure of imagination is their fatal flaw. When the good person encounters the wolf, they do not see a predator. They see a misunderstanding. They see a difficult person who can be won over. They try to reason with the wolf. They try to appeal to its better nature. They try to find a win-win solution. They offer trust, assuming it will be reciprocated. They are honest, assuming the wolf will be honest in return. The wolf, meanwhile, sees only one thing: prey. And it will use the good person's own virtues against them with a brilliant and ruthless efficiency. It will exploit their honesty with its lies. It will take advantage of their fairness with its own ruthless self-interest. It will use their compassion as a lever to manipulate them. It will see their willingness to compromise as a weakness to be pushed. This is the terrible asymmetry of the encounter. The good person is playing a game of checkers, while the wolf is playing a game of three-dimensional chess. The good person is bound by 1,000 internal rules of conscience, while the wolf is bound by only one: to win. In this contest, the outcome is a foregone conclusion. The good person will always finish last, not because they are weak, not because they are stupid, but simply because they are playing a different and far less effective game. The brutal lesson of Machiavelli is this: you cannot hope to defend yourself from the wolves by being a better sheep. You cannot win a gunfight by bringing a strongly worded letter. You can only defend yourself by learning to be, when necessary, a wolf yourself. You must learn the arts of the predator, not because you wish to be a predator, but because the world is full of them, and to remain ignorant of their ways is to choose to be a victim. The path of the prince, the alchemical union of the man and the beast. If this is the diagnosis, what is the cure? Does Machiavelli's lesson condemn us to a life of cynical, amoral, and soul-crushing realpolitik? Is the only alternative to being a victim to become a monster? This is the common and deeply flawed reading of Machiavelli. The true and far more difficult lesson is not to abandon morality, but to achieve a higher, more complex and more effective form of it. This is the path of the prince. The prince, for Machiavelli, is the new kind of leader, the new kind of human being that is required to navigate the brutal realities of the world of power. The prince is not a good man in the Christian sense, nor is he an evil one. He is something far more powerful. He is a whole man. He is the alchemical union of the two sides of human nature. He has learned to be both the man and the beast. As Machiavelli famously wrote, the prince must learn to imitate both the lion and the fox. The lion represents the capacity for overt, courageous, and even violent force. The lion can frighten the wolves. The prince is not a pacifist. He understands that there are times when force is the only language the world understands, and he is not afraid to use it. He understands that a reputation for being formidable is a powerful deterrent. But the lion alone is not enough, for he is clumsy and cannot see the traps. The prince must also be a fox. The fox represents the capacity for cunning, for subtlety, for deception. The fox can recognize the traps. The prince understands that the world of power is a world of illusions, of hidden agendas, of strategic manipulation. He is not a naive truth-teller. He has mastered the art of the mask. He knows when to be honest and when to deceive, when to be generous and when to be cruel, when to appear merciful and when to be feared. His goodness is not a compulsive, reflexive habit. It is a strategic tool to be deployed when it is effective and to be set aside when it is not. This is not a form of hypocrisy. It is a form of psychological mastery. The prince is not possessed by his own beastly nature. He is its conscious and deliberate master. He can choose to put on the mask of the lion or the fox when it is necessary for the preservation of the state, for the greater good. But he is not the mask. He retains an inner core of clarity and purpose. The ordinary evil man is a slave to his own cruel impulses. The prince is the master of them. He can be not good in his actions, while remaining in his ultimate intention, a force for order and stability. This is the terrible and magnificent burden of the true leader. It is the path of walking a razor's edge between good and evil, between the man and the beast. It is a path that requires an almost superhuman level of psychological resilience, of emotional detachment, and of unflinching, clear-eyed realism. The good man, who is afraid of his own inner wolf, who has repressed his own shadow, can never walk this path. He is a half-man. The evil man, who has been consumed by his own inner wolf, can also never walk this path. He is a half-man. Only the prince, the one who has had the courage to confront, to tame, and to consciously integrate his own inner beast, can become a whole man, and therefore a true and effective leader of men.
The uncomfortable truth, the choice before the modern soul. What is Machiavelli's lost lesson for us today? We are living in an age that is, in many ways, even more naive and more sentimental than the one he was writing against. We are a culture that is pathologically obsessed with the ideals of safety, of niceness, of a world without sharp edges. We have doubled down on the morality of the good person, the morality of the sheep, and we are now being devoured by the wolves, by the ruthless, the shameless, the power-hungry, who are laughing at our naive and self-righteous pieties. Machiavelli's warning echoes across 5 centuries with a chilling and urgent relevance. We must awaken from our sentimental slumber. We must have the courage to face the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. We must have the courage to face our own human nature in all its dark, complex, and terrifying glory. This does not mean that we must become cynical, immoral, and ruthless. It means that we must become wise. It means that we must recognize that there are different moralities for different contexts. The morality of the private sphere is not the morality of the public square. The ethics of the lamb are not the ethics of the shepherd. We must, as individuals and as a society, learn to integrate the lost art of the prince. We must learn to be both doves and serpents. We must cultivate not just the gentle virtues of compassion and fairness, but also the hard virtues of courage, of cunning, and of a righteous and unapologetic will to power. For the individual, this is a profound psychological journey. It is a journey into your own shadow, into the parts of yourself that you have been taught to fear and to despise. It is the journey of finding your own inner lion and your own inner fox, of befriending them, of learning to wield their immense power with consciousness and with purpose. It is the journey of moving from the one-sided weakness of the pretty good guitar person to the integrated strength of the whole person. It is to understand that true goodness is not the absence of darkness, but the conscious and masterful integration of it. This is the great, uncomfortable, and ultimately liberating lesson of Machiavelli. The world of power is a dark and dangerous forest. You cannot hope to survive in it by being the most virtuous and well-behaved sheep in the pasture. You can only survive by becoming a different kind of creature altogether. A creature that is as wise as the fox, as courageous as the lion, and as clear-eyed about the true, brutal nature of the world as the great and terrible Florentine himself. The good may finish last, but the whole, the integrated, the one who has mastered both the man and the beast within, they do not just finish, they rule. The cost of goodness is ruin, the prize of wholeness is the world.